Hello everyone, what's up? A lot of you have asked how to airbrush lacquers safely, so let's clear that up once and for all. But even if you're spraying acrylics, proper safety measures are a must. Therefore, no matter what paints you use, in this airbrush safety guide, I'll show you what gear you actually need and how to maintain it. But to start, we'll look at what's actually in lacquer paints and thinners and why that matters. Oh, one more thing. There's a lot of misinformation out there about airbrushing safety, like the idea that Tamiya XF paints are acrylics and totally safe, or that Vallejo users don't need any protection at all. I'm making a separate video about that very soon. Let's get started. If you've been watching this channel for a while, I'm sure you know that lacquers are my favorite paints, and I've often explained why in my videos. For example, here you can see how I enjoyed spraying this Mr. Color Gold, which, as you may recall, I described as the best gold paint I had ever tried in terms of the quality of the finish. Another example is this great paint by Tamiya LP18, which is my favorite German red primer paint. However, if you've been paying attention, you will also know that I always warn you guys that lacquer paints are highly toxic, and that I only recommend them to people with the appropriate safety gear. But what do I really mean by that, and why? Well, let's take a look, shall we? This is the official Safety Data Sheet, or SDS, for Mr. Color Leveling Thinner, a thinner which I use quite often, and which a lot of scale modelers in particular consider the best thing since sliced bread. That's quite a lot of warning signs though, right? Well, let's look at it in more detail. Here is the actual composition. The first component, with 20 to 25%, is 1-butanol, which, as you can see, has a lot of warnings associated with it. But let's look at the next component, 4-methyl-2-pentanone, abbreviated MIBK. It looks like it has even more warnings, right? Well, if you scroll down on the SDS, you find this section, Exposure Controls and Personal Protection. And for MIBK, it lists short and long-term values and provides two more acronyms, SK and BMGV. Now, SK means that this stuff absorbs through your skin, so maybe don't bathe in it. But BMGV, that's a real fun one. It means that enough of this builds up in your body over time that scientists think you should be testing your blood or urine to keep track of it. Because, surprise, surprise, this stuff doesn't just disappear. So when a chemical comes with an official maybe check your pee recommendation, that's usually a sign that breathing it in is not the best idea. So let's talk about how to actually stay safe, shall we? Since I never show my face in my tutorials and I always try to get the best shots possible, all of you have seen me wear black nitrile gloves when handling paints and thinners, but few of you had seen this before. This is where all the respirator magic happens, right in my attic Batcave, and this is also where my safety precautions, other than the gloves, start. I'm referring of course to my humble airbrush booth, a Sparmax SB88, which I have owned for 7 years now. As you can see, it has seen better days. Now, to be honest, this is not a particularly powerful model, and I've seen better ones and with lighting for less money, but it's what I have. So that is the first component, to my mind, as you definitely need the fumes to be extracted somehow, regardless of what protection you might wear. This is the next thing, a respirator mask. This is an absolute must for any solvent-based paints, and not instead of the extractor, but in addition to it. Let me show you what I use and why. These are my two respirators, different models from 3M, one new with better comfort features, and a more basic one which I've been using for a while now. But what really matters isn't the mask itself, it's the filters. For airbrushing lacquers, enamels, or anything else which is solvent-based, you need two types of filters, an organic vapors filter and a particulate filter. Here's what I use. First, the 3M 6055A2. This traps harmful solvent fumes from lacquers, enamels, and thinners. Second, a set of P3 particulate filters. These protect you from airborne paint particles, and they come with a retainer which holds the P3 securely over the vapor cartridge. With this setup, you're protected from both fumes and from fine paint mist. Now personally, in addition to all of that, I also use a Philips air purifier, the AC8020. Now, an air purifier isn't a replacement for proper ventilation, but it adds an extra layer of protection by tackling both paint particles and lingering fumes. This particular one features a HEPA filter to capture fine paint mist, plus an activated carbon element. I keep the air purifier running whenever I airbrush, and I even have a second, more powerful, larger unit downstairs in case any of the fumes from my attic, well, travel downwards, let's say. Time to talk maintenance now. This is my older mask, and as you can see, it's in dire need of maintenance. How can you tell? Well, first, there's a visual cue. The outer particulate filter has darkened. Once it looks like this, it's definitely time for a change. But let's not just swap out the outer filter. We're doing a full refresh. Here's a new set of A2 vapor filters. To start, just rotate the A2 unit and it'll come loose. Do the same on the other side, then remove the retainers. Now, I actually did this wrong. The printed side of the filter should go on the inside. So do as I say, not as I did here. And yeah, that's filthy. Definitely time for a change. But honestly, I already knew that it was overdue, because I could smell the lacquer thinner even with the mask on. That is your biggest and most definitive warning that the vapor filters are done. If you can smell it, it's getting to your lungs, guys. Now let's get these new A2 filters installed and give the mask a complete refresh. The particulate filter is really easy to install. You can place it over the cartridge, like I did here, or you can follow the official instructions and stick it inside the retainer first. Either way, just make sure that it's secure. Now rotate the filter unit until it clicks into place. One side, then the other, and done. Now back to the airbrush booth, which in my case also has two filters. Let me show you how I change them. First, I remove the paper, which I always put on the bottom, which is just two thick sheets of A3 paper taped together. This is to have a white background for my videos, but also to make cleaning the booth easier as it catches most of the overspray. Next, we pull the outer filter out, which as you can see, looks clean in some areas, but really dirty in others. When I turn it around, I could see paint residue on the other side, which means that at least that part is saturated. But look at the inner filter, which I installed at the same time. Oh my, this is absolutely filthy. No wonder my booth was struggling the other day, which by the way is a classic telltale sign that you absolutely have to change your filters. You can actually see little clouds of paint dust here, so wear a mask while you change it too, and don't wait this long. What I always do next is get a vacuum cleaner and hoover all the remaining dust. After that, it's time to use some alcohol wipes to give the booth a good clean, in particular around that second filter. These disinfectant wipes are great for a lot of things, by the way. They remove all kinds of paint very easily. Just look at how much crap is coming off. So with our booth clean, it's time to install new filters. First, this inner one. I always buy two each time, so I know I always have a replacement on hand. Just press it into place and you're done. Second, we have the bigger outer filter. They are a bit of a pain to store because of their size, but I always buy them in pairs also. The arrow indicates the direction, and once again they fit really easily. Okay guys, let's quickly recap what we've covered. Airbrush safety comes down to two things: having the right gear and following the right procedures. Let's break it down. First, the gear. Here's what you need again for proper protection. A spray booth, which extracts fumes at the source, gloves to protect your skin from solvents and paint, a good quality respirator mask, which filters both solvent fumes and fine paint mist, and optionally, an air purifier, which helps remove lingering particles and fumes. Gear alone, however, isn't enough. Here are the procedures that you need to follow. Replace your filters regularly. Old filters don't protect you. Use a sight and smell test for your respirator. If you smell paint, it's time to change the vapor filter. If the particulate filter is dark, it's time to change it. Use a sight and suction test for your booth. If airflow is weak or the filter is visibly clogged, replace it. So with the right gear and good habits, you can airbrush safely without being concerned about long-term exposure. So stay safe and happy airbrushing. By the way, these are just some of the acrylics in my collection, and I do use them from time to time. Are they safe to use without any of the safety measures that we've covered today, as most people seem to think? In short, no they're not. and Tamiya XF paints, which I absolutely love, much less so. But rather than cram all of that into this video, however, I'm making a dedicated deep dive where I discuss acrylic paints and whether they're safe to use. That video is coming soon, and I think you will not want to miss it. That's it for today, guys. I hope that this helps you airbrush safely and avoid turning your hobby into an unintentional chemistry experiment. A huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, who make these videos possible, quite literally. Because if I had to rely on YouTube ad revenue, well, let's just say that I'd be spraying lacquers raw and staying safe by holding my breath. Like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep it up and weather it out.